58 minutes. That's all it took. Not to win a practice set, not to feel good in a warm-up, to walk onto the biggest hardcourt stage outside of a Grand Slam, stand across the net from the most dangerous tennis player on the planet, and take her apart like it was the most natural thing she had ever done. Nobody saw it coming. And that's exactly what makes this story worth telling. But to understand what happened in the California desert in March 2026, you have to go back further. You have to go back to where it actually began, not in the heat and the noise and the blue court brilliance of Indian Wells. You have to go back to Manila, a quiet, fiercely determined young girl from an athletic family. No fanfare, no headlines, just a girl with talent she hadn't yet been given the room to fully express, studying her craft in the junior training halls of the Rafa Nadal Academy in Mallorca, Spain, absorbing everything the academy's structure could offer. In 2025, at Alexandra Ayala, Alex, to the people closest to her, was sitting at 143rd in the world. Not a name you heard in serious conversations about the future of women's tennis. Not someone analysts circled on their boards. She was a promising entry on a very long list, acknowledged, nodded at, and then quietly set aside. That was their mistake, because while the tennis world was busy looking elsewhere, Ayala was building. Not just training, building. She was dissecting every loss, replaying every tight moment, studying every time the game had exposed a crack in her armor. Then, one by one, she was sealing those cracks with the patient precision of a player who understood exactly where she needed to go and exactly what stood between her and getting there. Under the guidance of Jean Bosch, refined over years at the Rafa Nadal Academy, she was constructing something the rankings hadn't registered. She was waiting for the door to open. Miami, March 2025. It opened. The WTA handed her a wild card, an invitation extended to a player outside the top 130, a golden ticket into a field of champions. What followed still sounds like something you'd dismiss as fiction if you hadn't watched it unfold in real time. She beat Yelena Estino. Then she dismantled Madison Keys, the reigning US Open champion. The tennis world put down what it was doing and looked up. But then came the moment that turned heads into stares. She stepped onto the court against the second-ranked player in the world. And she won, straight sets, composed, controlled, commanding. Let that register for a moment. In a single WTA tournament, a wildcard defeated 3 Grand Slam winners in straight sets. The first wildcard in the entire history of the WTA Tour to do so. Not the first in recent memory, the first ever. And she still wasn't finished. Then she pushed to the semifinals of a WTA 1000 event, another first for the Philippines. By March 31st, she cracked the top 100. Another first. She won her maiden WTA 125 title in Guadalajara. At the US Open, she became the first Filipino player in the Open era to win a Grand Slam singles match. She arrived to that year ranked 143rd and closed it ranked 50th, the highest any Filipino player had ever sat on the WTA rankings. On Instagram, she wrote, "My dreams have truly come alive." She called the season a love letter to her family, her team, the people who believed in her through all of it, and to herself. Read those words again. That's not relief, that's arrival. Still, the question that hung over everything heading into 2026 had an edge to it. A quiet kind of dread wrapped inside the excitement. She had done the unthinkable once. Could the unthinkable become a pattern? Before we answer that, you need to understand what Indian Wells actually is. It isn't just the prize money, though the numbers are serious. It isn't just the manicured blue courts set against the backdrop of the desert mountains, though the setting is unlike anywhere else on tour. Indian Wells has a pulse. It breathes differently. The crowds don't drift in. They arrive with intention, with expectation, with the understanding that what they're witnessing matters. It feels, in every way, like a 5th Grand Slam. When the pressure is ambient, the atmosphere doesn't let you hide. The best players in the world come here knowing that the tennis they play under these lights will define how people talk about them. At the top of the 2026 draw sat the name everyone expected to find there. Aryna Sabalenka, world number 1. A Belarusian force of nature whose baseline game had, at various points, dismantled every major champion of her generation. Want a serve that arrives on your racket like a physical event. Something above 180 kilometers per hour that doesn't just challenge you, it challenges your certainty. She was the reigning Indian Wells finalist. Her Australian Open campaign had been formidable. She touched down in the California desert knowing with complete conviction that she was the best women's tennis player on earth. And then there was Eala, ranked 32nd in the world, arriving at Indian Wells for the very first time. Fresh off a quarterfinal run at the Dubai Tennis Championships, where she had beaten Jasmine Paolini, the world number 8. She carried herself with the focused, barely contained hunger of someone who had already stood on the game's grandest stages and found them not too large, but not yet large enough. But the draw doesn't care about hunger. It doesn't read your story or reward your momentum. It simply tells you who you're playing. And when the Indian Wells draw was made public, so the fourth round bracket showed a potential Eala-Sabalenka collision. The experts glanced at it and moved on. The bookmakers adjusted their lines without looking back. Sabalenka was the favorite. Sabalenka was always going to be the favorite. One analyst wrote, buried 3 paragraphs deep in a preview column that most people skimmed. Alexandra Eala could be a dangerous floater. Goes 4-4 against the top 20, 2-2 against the top 10, doesn't rely on her serve. There's a ceiling, so it's a real ceiling. 3 words, buried in a column almost nobody read all the way through. A real ceiling. Those 3 words turned out to be the most spectacularly wrong assessment of the entire 2026 tennis season. Nothing about what unfolded on that court could be absorbed in real time. It was too sudden, too total, too mercilessly efficient. The kind of match that doesn't simply end. It concludes almost like a sentence that has been building toward its period since long before you started reading. The match began in the warm California afternoon light, and from the opening game, something in the air felt different. Eala walked to the baseline without a trace of what this moment should have looked like from the outside. No visible nerves, no tightening of the shoulders. Instead, an almost eerie stillness, a calm that didn't read as passivity, but as total readiness. And as if she had already played this match in her mind 1,000 times and was simply here to confirm what she already knew. Sabalenka opened the way she always does, the heavy first serve. The violent forehand loaded with topspin designed to pin opponents behind the baseline until they buckle. It had crushed players far more experienced than Eala. It had been the mechanism of defeat for names that filled trophy cabinets. In the weeks before Indian Wells, it had been working against everyone. And against Eala, it found nothing to grip. She was absorbing the pace and redirecting it, not blocking it back defensively, but weaponizing it. Taking Sabalenka's own velocity and converting it into angles the world number 1 hadn't accounted for. Her footwork was surgical. Her aggression was calibrated, arriving at exactly the moment Sabalenka expected a retreat. The rhythm Sabalenka had built her game plan around was dissolving point by point, and no reset was available. And the first set ended before the crowd had fully settled. 6-2. Eala. For a beat, there was near silence. Then the stadium exhaled. That particular sound, part disbelief, part recognition, rippled from the upper rows downward like something tangible, because the people in those seats understood what they were watching. This wasn't a competitive match. This was a statement being made in real time, in front of thousands of witnesses, on the sport's biggest non-Grand Slam stage. Eala didn't acknowledge it. She walked to her chair, toweled off, and came back out to continue. She wasn't waiting for Sabalenka to unravel on her own. She didn't retreat into defense and hope the pressure became too heavy. She pressed. Every return arrived like intent. Every passing shot landed like punctuation. The thousands of Filipino supporters in the stadium had risen to their feet. The same diaspora energy that had surrounded her in Manila, in Dubai, and in every arena that had come to feel like home, and they stayed standing. Because what they were witnessing wasn't a match anymore. It was confirmation of something they had believed before anyone else did. The final point fell. The clock read 58 minutes. The stadium erupted. Not polite applause for a surprise result, not the reserved acknowledgement of an upset. Full-throated, full volume, a full-body noise from thousands of people who had just watched a 20-year-old from the Philippines walk into the most imposing hardcourt environment outside of a Grand Slam and reduce the world's top-ranked player to a scoreline that looked like a misprint. Eala raised her arms. Then she looked up, chin lifted toward the open sky above the court. Not in disbelief, not in relief, but in the overwhelming, all barely containable joy of someone whose private certainty had just been made public for the entire world to see. Social media detonated within minutes. The Philippines, volcanic. The kind of national celebration that travels across time zones regardless of the hour, because some moments are too large for sleep. But it wasn't only Filipino audiences reacting. Tennis fans across the world who had been quietly tracking Eala's arc since Miami 2025 felt something shift. And the analysts who had casually dismissed her with the phrase "real ceiling" were now revisiting every assumption built into that assessment. Clips circulated among former champions. Hashtags ignited across languages. Before she reached the press conference, Eala was trending in more than a dozen countries. Philippine sports journalists were filing dispatches at a pace their keyboards could barely keep up with. Sentences carrying the weight of history alongside the lightness of disbelief. Met within 60 minutes, the word historic appeared in hundreds of headlines across dozens of languages. But behind all of it, the flags, the noise, the cascading viral clips, the pure, uncomplicated joy of a nation watching one of their own do the impossible, there was a deeper conversation quietly beginning. Because what happened on that court wasn't simply a win, it was a recalibration. This is what the numbers said before that match. Over the previous 12 months, Sabalenka had barely lost. She had taken down virtually every significant name on tour at least once. Her forehand generated raw power that placed her in a category almost entirely her own among women's players. Her serve was a weapon that arrived at the net before most opponents had time to read it. She was facing a player making her Indian Wells debut, a player outside the top 30. She was supposed to coast. Instead, she was outplayed, completely. All by a young woman who had begun the previous year ranked 143rd and had not only closed that gap, but blown past it in ways no trajectory model had predicted. At the press conference, Eala was exactly what she had been on the court. Still, collected, certain of herself without needing the room to confirm it. She said, "I have faith in myself. For a very long time, I have had faith in myself. All I wanted was for everyone else to see it." Read those words carefully. There's no relief in them. Well, no surprise. Just the quiet dignity of someone who lived inside a conviction for years before the world caught up. That's not a lucky player talking, that's a future champion. Now step back from everything, the emotion, the celebration, the replays, and consider what this actually means for women's tennis. For years, the sport has been searching for the player who would challenge the dominance of its established elite. Name after name surfaced, generated momentum, and stalled. On the tour is unforgiving that way. Potential is abundant. Sustained performance under sustained pressure is something far rarer. Since Miami 2025, Eala has been performing, not in bursts, not in isolated upsets that can be explained away with conditions and draws, on a continuous, rising, unbroken line. She began 2025 at 143rd in the world and ended it at 50, the highest-ranked Filipino player in WTA history. She earned close to $1 million in prize money across 27 events. She made the Grand Slam main draw at the French Open, Wimbledon, and the US Open, each a first for her country, each approached not as something borrowed, but as something deserved. The names she has beaten along the way, Shvi, Paulini, Ostapenko, Keys, Sabalenka, these aren't accidents distributed across lucky draws. They are a pattern, and patterns mean something. Her career high of 32nd in the world came on the back of strong performances in Dubai, Abu Dhabi, and Manila. The momentum isn't plateauing, it's compounding. Now hold this. She is 20 years old. Indian Wells 2026 was her first time competing here. She has not yet reached a Grand Slam quarterfinal. She has not yet defended a title at a significant level. By any honest technical measure, she remains a player still ascending toward her peak. The version of Alexandra Eala that dismantled the world #1 in 58 minutes is not the finished product. And it is the early draft of something that hasn't yet shown us its full shape. That isn't hype. That isn't nationalist hope dressed in statistics. That is a clear-eyed, evidence-based reading of what the data shows and what the trajectory tells us. In an exclusive interview reflecting on 2026, she said, "The obvious answer, which has always kind of been my answer, is to win slams and to be world number one. I consider those everyone's desire. Oh, and I consider myself fairly ambitious." She said it without hesitation, without performance, without the guarded deflection of someone who doesn't fully believe it. She knows where she is going. The only question still open is how long the journey takes. 58 minutes. That's how long it took for a 20-year-old from Manila to walk onto the blue hard courts of the California desert, face down the most formidable player in women's tennis, even change the conversation about what is possible for herself, for her country, and for a sport that had been waiting, without knowing it, for exactly this kind of answer. She arrived ranked 32nd in the world. She left having dismantled the woman ranked first. And she did it with a precision, a calm, and a bone-deep belief that makes you wonder if she was ever really surprised at all. So here's the question we leave you with. If she can do this, at 20 years old, in her first appearance at Indian Wells, ranked 32nd in the world, what exactly does the ceiling look like from where she's standing now?